welcome Ananya to the mock interview.
Thank you, sir.
Ananya, tell us briefly about yourself, your academic qualifications, your work experience, if any, and your main hobbies.
So my full name is Ananya Awasthi. I hail from Indore, Madhya Pradesh. I have done most of my schooling in Indore itself. Thereafter, I pursued law from National Law Institute University, Bhopal, from 2012 to 2017. So thereafter, I started preparing for civil services examination. And in 2019, I got through the examination, and currently I am serving as a probationer in Indian Railway Traffic Service. So my hobbies include that I have a keen interest in nature photography, as well as in the past few months, I have developed an interest in bird watching. So these are the hobbies I'm pursuing these days.
Very good. So Ananya, tell us your law degree, in what manner, if you get into the service that you are wanting to get into, say IAS and even IPS, would help you in district administration?
So firstly, administrative law in itself decides the validity and, if I can say, the constitutionality of every order passed by administrative authority. So having an idea about administrative law and its tenets will help me in making my decisions legally as well as administrative law-wise sound. So also a deep knowledge of the laws. For example, in district administration, there are laws like criminal laws like IPC involved. For example, if I am in IPS, so that will help that will help in implementation of those laws better. And also, so in overall district law widens one's perspective. Because as lawyers, we are taught to not only think about one side of the story, but rather the counter side of it, and then come to a conclusion. So in helping in arriving at conclusions and in day-to-day affairs, I think being a law student does give me an edge.
So Ananya, you are a law student. Can you tell me few laws? I mean, I'm being more specific on the district administration. What are the laws which collector would deal in? Can you list 3 or 4 laws through which he derives power?
So revenue codes of the states is where the district collector derives power from, and in the district magistrate capacity, it is the CRPC from where the district collector magistrate derives power from. So another law where specifically the role of collector is mentioned is the Public Liability Insurance Act, where if any hazardous accident happens, then the collector has the power to award compensation to the victim. So apart from these, there are other laws like there's a significant role in disaster management, where the district collector has a role to play.
So Ananya, again on the same issue, it is the law which decides the name of the collector, whether he should be called district collector,
Yes,
or district magistrate,
yes,
or district election officer.
yes.
Now, which are the 3 laws by which these definitions are defined? His role is defined.
So the district collector is under the revenue law. The district magistrate is under Code of Criminal Procedure. Officer is under Representation of People's Act.
Sorry?
It's a RPA Act.
What is that? IP? I did not hear you.
Representation of People's Act.
Representation of People's Act. Actually, your voice got cracked. All right,
Yes.
good. Now, my second question is, tell me some very landmark judgments given by Supreme Court over the last year, which has empowered women in India.
So there's some
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I was asking, what are the landmark, give me 2 or 3 landmark judgments of Supreme Court which have empowered women in India?
So, firstly, is the judgment of Babita Punya versus the state. So, where permanent commission in army was granted to women officers. That is a great step ahead, looking at the legacy of women officers and the glass ceiling which they faced in their careers in the armed forces. So secondly will be the Vishakha case, Vishakha guidelines case, which formed the basic background for enactment of Prevention of Sexual Harassment Act of 2013. And so lastly is the recent case where 2000 where the Supreme Court has upheld equal succession succession powers of women of daughters under the Hindu Succession Act.
Ananya,
So these
you
are
were
the three
born
recent judgments, including the Vishal.
Ananya, you were born in Raipur, Chhattisgarh, and you have
Yes, sir.
also lived in Madhya Pradesh, as I can see from the DAF. Is it correct?
Yes, sir.
Now, tell me today, if you have the choice to make Chhattisgarh or Madhya Pradesh, any of the state as your domicile, which state would you choose and why?
So I will choose Madhya Pradesh, and it comes to me as a natural choice because I've stayed most of my life in Madhya Pradesh, and I have certain sentimental values attached to that state.
Thank you, Ananya. I pass on to Mr. Khanna. Over to you, Khanna sir.
Thank you, sir.
Good afternoon, Ananya.
Good afternoon, sir.
So how long have you spent in IRTS?
Sir, it is my third month in Indian Railway Traffic Service.
Okay, so tell me, are you happy with your present job?
Yes, sir. I do have a sense of contentment in my current job.
Okay. Uh, what is railway doing for environmental sustainability? Can you just highlight a couple of steps that railway has taken?
Yes, sir. So, Indian Railways will be the first railways of its size across the world to gain the net zero carbon emitter status by 2030. So, secondly, railway is also trying to experiment on hydrogen fuel, and recently, last year, railways did call out for bids to experiment on the hydrogen fuel, which is a cleaner and a greener fuel. Railways is also an active part of a national solar mission, where the use of solar technology is being used extensively. And so, for example, stations like Chennai, they rely totally on solar power. So, sir, these are a few steps where Indian Railways is trying to contribute its share towards towards environmental sustainability and climate change.
And what about complete electrification of transportation?
Yes, so we have set a target to reach 100% electrification by 2024, and current status is around 75% on broad gauge.
Okay. What is Vasuki train features? You have heard about Vasuki?
Yes, sir. Vasuki train uh, is a goods train, which is one of the longest freight trains, uh, freight trains, which is formed by joining various good trains together. So it has various versions like Python, Vasuki. So different divisions keep coming up with different names.
Which is the biggest e-com companies in India?
So I'm not aware.
It is your IRCTC.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
So my next question is on IRCTC. IRCTC has got probably the largest database available. So should we not monetize the large amount of data that IRCTC has got? while railway is talking of so many other steps, what is your personal opinion on monetization of data?
So while there are concerns around privacy of the data of the privacy of the data principles, so I think that non-personal data can be used for monetizing it because it will have various positives. Firstly, it will help in better planning of rail services and in predicting the passenger behavior. Secondly, the IRCTC works as a corporation, and when the non-personal data is monetized, it will eat better profits, and thus the shareholders will also get better dividends. And so, thirdly, data is the new oil, so it will help in better management of railways as well as IRCTC as a corporation. So I think that is a good idea, provided that the privacy concerns and it is ensured that the personal and critical personal data is safeguarded properly.
Okay, Ananya, tell me, you are interested in bird watching.
Yes, sir.
So, what is murmuration, and have you ever witnessed this phenomena of murmuration? Have you been able to take a photograph? Because even nature photography is your choice.
Yes. So murmuration, I'm sorry, I'm not aware of the term. So because it's a newfound hobby which I have formed in the last 2 months since I've joined campus, I would really want to go back and check on it and would like to capture it through my lens.
Murmuration is flocking behavior of the bird when they move in flocks and form various designs.
Yes, sir. So in fact, I've
So that
captured a
is
video.
what is murmuration. Okay, come. Let's
Sir,
talk of Supreme Court.
captured a video of the same.
We move to the next question. What is the motto of Supreme Court?
So it's I'm not able to recall. So sorry.
Okay, coming to Constitution, uh, from 1950 till date, can you mention 5 most important uh, milestones in the life of Indian Constitution?
So, firstly is the Keshavan Bharti case. It has found it is one of the most important milestones of the journey of the Indian Constitution, primarily because it decides the contours of the amending powers of the Parliament and has laid down the structure, the basic structure doctrine. So, secondly would be so the second would be incorporation of right to education as a fundamental right, because education as a human development indicator plays a role not only in the social development but rather has a spillover effect on every facet of a country's growth story. So, thirdly would be the removal of right to property from right to property the from fundamental rights, because it was acting as a big impediment in implementation of projects and infrastructure development. So also when we come to judicial side, because constitutional law works in tandem with the judicial interpretation. So the Minerva Mills judgment also played a significant part. And so in my view, lastly, I think the limiting of scope of Article 370 is also a uh, landmark change in the Constitution, because it has furthered the it has the potential to remove various friction
Okay.
points.
Okay, 2 quick questions and then I'll pass on. You are also the best speaker, right? So you got some best speaker award.
Yes, sir.
So tell me about communications. How many types of communications are there?
So I don't know the specifics. I have not read anything specifically on that.
Okay, non-verbal communication. If
Yes.
you were to communicate your unhappiness through a non-verbal communication, how will you do it?
So it will be by facial expressions, by body language. for example, when a person is annoyed with somebody, they usually don't, the body language is closed and they usually don't face the body doesn't face the person from whom they are annoyed with. And also, so the tone, not the words, but the tone of how a person speaks also plays an important role in uh, showcasing their emotions.
Okay, last question I want to ask you is on lessons learned from Bhopal gas tragedy. As a law person, do you think we have learned some better lessons in this case?
So, Bhopal gas tragedy was indeed a landmark case, and as a lawyer, it led to the enactment of Environment Protection Act. Also, sir, the laws around the industrial safety, the norms around industrial safety, specifically if we focus on the enforcement side, I think that needs to be uh, has played that has regained focus. And sir, as I mentioned in one of the points discussed before, like the Public Liability Insurance Act, so the compensation of victims was very low, or the award was very low in Bhopal gas tragedy. So I think the Public Liability Insurance Act does cater to the victim compensation part. And so, lastly, the rule of absolute liability, which was subsequently developed by the Supreme Court. So this puts a harsher regulation on the industrialists.
Right. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Over to you, Mr. Ranjan.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, Ananya.
Good evening, sir.
You are from Indore,
Yes, sir.
the cleanest city of India.
Yes, sir.
How do you feel about it? You're proud of it?
Yes, I'm very proud of it, and I've also played being a citizen. The citizens also have a part to play in it, so I'm happy to be a part.
So
Very
how did you contribute? Because this Indore has been getting this cleanest city award for the last 5 years, so you must have been part of this entire endeavor by the people of Indore and administration of Indore. What was your role as a citizen in this?
So firstly, I adhere to the segregation of waste in dry and wet, uh, and so that is a strict norm which is being followed by a family and not just me. So secondly, I think when Swachh Bharat Mission was launched in 2017, I did participate in an essay writing competition which was organized by the municipal corporation, and I had given my entry there. So that was one symbolic part of it. And so, lastly, I think so by small gestures, like abiding by throwing the garbage in the dustbin, and like by not
Okay.
littering. I think this is a very minuscule part, but I've tried to abide by the norms.
Any other city or other part of Madhya Pradesh who have been motivated by this outstanding achievement of Indore on cleanliness drive? Because when you see some city in your neighborhood doing so well, so has it impacted any strategic planning or governance in other parts of the state also, on particularly on Swachhta mission?
Yes, sir. Cities like Ujjain, they have been adjudged as one of the cleanest cities, and it is hardly 55 kilometers from Indore. Also, sir, Bhopal has been able to secure good under the Sarvekshan mission. And so, this small city called industrial town city district. It's a district called Devas near Indore. I think regions in around Indore are taking cues, and also there are exchanges of ideas between Indore Municipal Corporation and the municipal corporations of the respective districts.
Okay, good, good on you. So MP is called the land of tigers.
Yes, sir.
Why so?
So MP is blessed with various national parks, and so these national parks are interconnected with each other. There are corridors, like for example, the Bandhav National Park is connected with Kanha, which in turn is connected with Page, which in turn is connected with parts of Maharashtra.
What is the approximate number of tigers as per the latest census? Any idea?
So I will have to check on that.
Okay. So how do you see the relationship of tribals? Because tribals are living around in the buffer zone or in the adjoining areas of these project tigers. How do you see the relationship? Whether they are tribal also playing an important role in conservation of these national parks and tiger population?
Indeed, sir. I would like to share with you a personal example. So, I went to Kanha National Park in 2019, and there the guide was from the Bega tribe. And so, he shared with us that Begas treat tigers as a part of their family members. If we look at specifically the management of Kanha National Park, tribals are getting employment out of the ecotourism which is happening there. Also, they do not harm the tribals. However, so there's another side of the story. For example, there are a few tribal groups which had hunting as their occupation. For example, Bhils in Madhya Pradesh had hunting as an occupation. However, so by and large, the coexistence of tribals with tigers and the eco habitat has been fruitful.
Okay, good. Anya. Now, India has been doing quite well on some of the important socio-economic parameters, but on malnutrition, we have our performance has been very dismal. In the recent global hunger index, we have slipped down from 101 rank to 94. So, what are the reasons? Why this so?
So, the first reason is that over dependence on wheat and rice, and under the PDA system, also the nutritional requirement. So, the over dependence on wheat and rice as our staple food has resulted in malnourishment, and also results in hidden malnourishment. Also, so one of the basic reasons, one of the very important reasons is the neglect of mothers' nutritional needs, because it directly impacts children and how they will be born.
Okay,
That is another reason. So thirdly is the inability or the poverty, which poverty results in ability to procure nutritious food, and some monocropping also, and the destruction of earlier local food habits is also resulting in malnourishment.
okay. Now, it is said that justice delayed is justice denied.
Yes, sir.
So, I think, and that is one serious problem in Indian judicial system. Do you agree with that?
Indeed, sir. I think it is one of the most unjust aspects of Indian judiciary, because if you look at the data, there are more than 4 crore cases
4 crore, yeah.
pending. And so, if you look at the under trials, if you look at the prisons, the composition of under trials is around 69%. And if you look
Can
at
you,
their
yeah.
social,
Ananya, can you tell me just one step which you think government should take to address this issue of so many pending cases?
so first and foremost is that government has to reduce its own litigation, because government is the largest litigator in it. So
Yeah.
secondly, there can be emphasis on alternative dispute resolution. And so thirdly, I think Indian judicial system, especially if you look at the criminal side, so the system of bail is seen as an exception rather than a rule. So the
Thank you,
bad
Ananya. Thank
conditions of
Ananya, this Khargon incident has happened. You are aware of it.
yes, sir.
Are you aware of it?
Yes, sir. So there were
Okay.
communal crashes on Ram Navami Day, and
Correct.
on
Okay. So I am basically, my point is that this incident happened, and maybe the next day itself, the encroachments, so-called encroachments, were bulldozed and they were removed. Now you are a law student. In fact, it has come in some section of the press also that how could the encroachments be removed without following the legal process. Now, you think as a law student and as, say, the district magistrate of that district, would you have preferred to remove the encroachment, even it was if the formalities of or legal formalities and process was followed? And number two, can the encroachments be removed without following the legal process?
So if I were posted in as a district magistrate, so I wouldn't have removed the encroachments then and there. So because if everything cannot be seen in silos, they were connected with the riots which happened a day before, and so the culpability of the accused was not established. So connecting a civil matter with connecting two matters is not right under law. So secondly, under if we go by the tenets of the administrative law, the principle of natural justice states that there has to be an opportunity of being heard, and in such a short span, there was no show cause notice issued, and no notice was given. So I think that is again bad in law. So even if the procedure was established, I think the basic tenets which go to the root of the administrative law gets hurt. And so, lastly, the principle of separation of power is also getting hurt because here the executive itself is acting as a jury where the guilt of the accused is being established, and there is a hidden agenda behind it. So it sets a wrong precedent and gives undue power to the executive.
So, Anya, I come to the last question, and I would want this last question to be asked from the topic of your choice.
So I would like to talk about Indian Railways because it's been 3 months here, so
Okay. So, I do not know whether privatization has been asked by the honorable member, Mr. Khanna, but I would like you to ask that is India or Indian Railway ready for privatization, especially in running the trains? Because in the last tender that was made, there were hardly any person, any good company or a group of company to have responded. So, what do you think is lacking?
So, my personal opinion, despite various merits of privatization with respect to efficiency and bringing competition in the sector, so my personal opinion is against it. And so, because there are various reasons, the railways operate in a very peculiar situation of its own. So, firstly, it has a social function to cater to. The passenger services are cross subsidized by the freight services. So, also talking about the conditions, so there is no independent regulator to check the competition between private sector as and the Indian Railways, which is a government, which is owned by the government, and also the infrastructure constraints because the lines are highly congested. So introducing another player will lead to chaos and will also have implications on the safety aspect. So because currently, because I'm in the traffic department and we are closely connected with the safety of railway operations, so it is a very complicated system where every aspect is taken care of so that the safety is ensured. We follow a fail-safe mechanism where if the system fails, then also we are safe. That is the level of safety which the Indian Railways maintains. So ensuring that when there are multiple players in the market, I think safety will get compromised.
Good.
But
So, thank you, Ananya.
only one thing I
Yeah,
would like to
another.
comment here, that it is not the operations of trains that has been given to the private players. When we are talking of privatization, as the chairman asked you, it is privatization of passenger train services. So fail safe will still remain because the operation of the train will still be done by Indian Railways.
Indeed, sir. So that's there. I took privatization. My interpretation of the question, I took privatization of the entire.
Okay.
So
So clarify that in the beginning, because so that.
Yes, sir. Okay, sir.
Okay.
Yes.
So thank you, Ananya.
Ananya, you have already faced one major interview and you are in services. So how you think you performed today?
So I was decent. So actually, this is my third interview. I appeared last year as well, but I just made it to the reserved list, so there was no change of service there.
So what was your feeling? How you performed?
So it was okay, but I think my hobbies part I need to strengthen it because I had actually observed and made a video of what you asked, but I think I need to research more on that. It's a newly developed hobby, and so there were a few things which I need to brush up on. But overall, I think I was decent.
No, you were very good. We had very good conversation. I liked all your replies because finally, when it came to the most successful e-commerce company in India, it is your own IRCTC,
Yes.
and data monetization. That you gave very good reply. All other issues, especially Bhopal gas learning, I was impressed with your analytical powers. Motto of Supreme Court. This is a question that is generally getting asked, so I thought you you will go through it. Yato dharmas tato jaya.
Yeah.
Okay, and find out who said to whom. So because the supplementary question will be who said to whom. So
I think Yudhishthir said.
Gandhari while blessing the Pandavas gave this blessing.
Okay.
Okay, so but then supplementary question again can be that is Supreme Court right in adopting a religious court? So be prepared on various aspects if this question is asked. 72 years journey of constitution, very well attended. So overall, I'm very happy with your performance, your content, uh, quality of replies. Well done. Just brush up on couple of things like communication, kinds of communication, verbal, non-verbal, and written and whatnot. Okay. So go through your hobby portion. That's all.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Rest all, the more you read, the better it is. Railways privatization of passenger services. That is different, and fail safe will still be responsibility of railways. Railways never said they will privatize completely.
Yes.
And management changes also, whatever is happening, see the pros and cons of the changes instead of simply taking one side, because
Yes.
things are still not very clear.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
So wish you all the best, Ananya. Over
Thank
to
you,
you,
sir.
Anil.
Thank you, sir. Ananya, what was your score in the last two interviews?
So in the first interview it was 176, and the next one it was 166.
Okay, it came down by okay. So how do you rate today's performance with the earlier two performance in the UPSC?
So last year I'm fairly satisfied with my performance, and last year after assessing it, I think I was more verbose. So I've tried to be more structured, and I think I can sense a certain degree of improvement and a certain degree of confidence, I guess.
Yes, I agree with what you have just said, and as well as assessment made by honorable member just now. I think you are an excellent candidate, very confident, articulate, and to the point.
Yes, sir.
I think
Thank you.
you answered all my questions very well, and just brush up on certain things which honorable member has just pointed out. And I think you should do very well. You were very precise. I didn't find much longish or kind of thing you were replying. It was quite stuck. Over to chairman, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Anil, you have done?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, Ananya, I share the same views. You were very confident. You were as a good communicator, uh, very fluent in all. You were structured in most of the questions, and there were some no's also, which Mr. Khanna has already pointed out. My questions were more on the views, so you gave some good views, but some of the things which I would like to flag, basically for improving. Otherwise, the panel has found you a very good candidate, and I think the kind of performance you have done today, I would rate it better than the marks that you got in the last interview where you got 176. So you are a shade even better than that. But having said this, certain things, we always tell the candidate that there's always a scope for improvement. So our idea basically is that you should score more, not to criticize your performance. So my first observation is that please listen to the question, in toto before you start responding. And at times I have seen that you respond also immediately after the answer. The question is, the moment question is over, you start responding. There's no harm in it, but the thing is that it should be only after you listen to the question. Now, one particular example illustration I would like to give is on the same issue of privatization. Now my question was a bit different. Probably what you mentioned was you spoke your heart.
Yes, sir.
The question was never whether the privatization should be done or is it good or bad for railways. Your answer was with regard to this question. My question was different, that privatization of railways is happening. And then I gave some example that tenders were raised and all. And finally, I asked you, are we prepared for the giving it to the private sector? The idea basically is that if the private sector is also not turning up to take the railway projects, whether running of the train or any other thing in big manner, then what is wrong? Are the laws or the tender conditions are very rigid, like we had in the case of Air India initially, wherein government wanted to divest and then finally they had to withdraw a lot of conditions and then create an environment by which resulted in this deal with Air India. Now, your answer was totally, probably it was in your mind that, the moment I get an opportunity to say that privatization is bad, now this is the opportunity, I must speak out my mind. So never do that. I hope you understand, Ananya. You think I'm right, or you think I'm
That was a
wrong?
blunder on my part, because the moment I heard the word privatization, I think my views overpowered
Correct.
the appreciation of what I was saying.
Correct. So there are many deceptions, Ananya, because it is not to make, it's not a stress interview in actual UPSC. You have already seen it 2 times. But the thing is that if you listen to the question, the last part of the question is very important. Normally what happens is कि पहले वो पृष्ठभूमि background. Now the moment background is mentioned, oh, you pick up the cue. All right, it's privatization. So let me form my views about privatization. Now during that period, some other point has been told, and the question is over. So you are stuck on privatization and you start as if they want to know whether privatization is good or not. If you have not understood a question, you must ask. Now, my second observation, again to improve you further, is how would you use law in district administration? Right? That question answer could have been more structured. You will have to read. Even law, I know, is a very wide subject, but since you are walking into the shoes of a district magistrate or SDM and into IAS or even SP, so you should expect questions that maybe they would expect that a law student at least should know what So you should begin with, the district collector and the magistrate primarily derives all his powers from the law. He derives the revenue powers through the Land Revenue Acts and other revenue laws. He derives magisterial powers from the Criminal Procedure Code. IPC, you don't derive any power, mind you, right? You derive, elections power as district election officer and returning officer, which you mentioned also. A marriage officer, and so many other things, Essential Commodity Act. So you could always, pick up few, you can structure your answer before, what is the problem? Because that is again related to your own line, and they are not asking you something, law which is different from the line that you are taking. So that is one. The third point I would like to mention is, it's just a thought. When I asked about MP and Chhattisgarh, I was wondering whether you should use this opportunity to express or to display your personality, that you would like to, fight for or care for or do more for a place which is less developed. So I don't know, there is no proper answer, but you brought emotions into it. Like, I will choose Madhya Pradesh, sir, because I like Madhya Pradesh. I mean, that's a very simple answer. I am attached to it. So I don't know. This is just my view.
Sir, actually, in my DAP also, I have put MP.
Sorry?
Sir, actually, in my DAP also, I have put MP as my first preference in that zone. So I thought it would have been hypocritical on my part to go for Chhattisgarh over MP.
Okay, that way. Okay, so you give some other things. Sir, MP, Madhya Pradesh, sir, I have found there are so many opportunities. If I get into the IAS also, I can do a lot for my state, because there are many things which need to be, attended to. You don't mention how it is good relatively vis-a-vis Chhattisgarh. You change your stand. So there are many things, whether it's the literacy, whether it is MMR, pick up any factor which is low. And you can say, or especially for women. So when I was growing up, I saw that MP has got this problem. And so I would always like to be the domicile of MP, because in my mind, I thought that if I get into civil services, I will give my contribution, to resolve all these things. Make it this way. It will look like a nationalist and a patriotic, and maybe, somebody who is concerned about his region and country, more on the development side, not on the emotion side. So that is it. Otherwise, everything is fine. You are a very good speaker. So you speak a little fast in speed, right? Your delivery. So at times, one is not able to see. Speech is neither fast nor slow. The benchmark is that the listener should be able to understand each word that you have spoken, right? That is the benchmark. So just have a look at the video. Maybe if you can reduce little bit of speed and make it in a more conversation style, instead of giving opinion in everything, you are basically talking to the panel. That's it from my side. Any question if you have, please let us know.
So while giving opinions, is it necessary that I give first the contrary opinion and then come to mine, so that it is shown to the board that I'm aware of the other side as well?
No, never come with your opinion immediately. Suppose if there is anything, right, you must balance it out. And then in the end, after you have given the reason, very briefly, right? For example, in Khargon, I mean, don't try to start with, sir, I would never have bulldozed.
Okay.
Now, that is for anything. So, Ananya, what about common university entrance test, sir, I am totally against it. Privatization in railways, sir, I am totally in agreement, in disagreement. Never make these blunt statements. Start with the aspects. Ki, sir, Khargone, yes, the communal riot took place. There were some people who were accused, and then the administration, as you have mentioned, they removed the encroachment. So, sir, my view is that in case the notices and other things were not given, then it was not legal for the administration to remove the encroachments. And this is my legal point of view, sir. As far as the role of district administration, had I been the district magistrate, even if it had been legal, I would not have done it. And the reason is that when already the communal passions are charged, one cannot open another front, right? It would have deteriorated the situation, which it has. Because in other 6 states where this thing happened, things have died down. 1 day, 2 days, and then, but media is constantly poking Madhya Pradesh, Khargone. Everyone knows. So it is to the detriment of the administration. It is not good for you also. I'm not talking politically.
Yes.
Right? So you start with something, the facts, and then come to your views in between. Right? What else?
That's about it.
So we have given you 66%, Ananya, today, which is, as I said, higher than your 176. But you are the candidate who will score 170 if you just take care of few things which we have advised you today. All right?
66%, that is 180 plus.
That's what I said. More than what she got last.
Yeah.
So last year my marks reduced. It was 166.
So I'm talking of the highest that you have received, you have got. But
You
today's
have done
assessment,
better than that.
today's assessment, we do not know how you performed that day. But today's assessment is again based on what UPSC would have given you plus minus half 1% here. Got it?
Yes. Thank you, sir.
So wish you all the best.
All the best.
Sure.
Ananya.
All the best, Ananya. Look into PPP aspects of railways, because railway is not getting good PPP results. So this is also one of the same issues. Okay. Okay. All the best.
All the
Thank
best.
you.